Well, I probably shouldn't come for this walk. Howdy folks, welcome to another episode of the Rifle Church channel. Taking Dogness out for a walk over there. All of the Rocket Dog. And I'm out here and suddenly the wind is really picked up. And I find myself in a situation where I can hear treetops cracking, branches breaking. I can hear things falling in the trees behind me because I'm on the edge of this opening on the fringe of the forest, and there's a bunch of dead wood in the crowns of these trees, and it's all sopping wet, and the wind is really going. And so these crowns are literally breaking apart, hitting each other, branches breaking, and detritus landing on the forest floor. I heard a big crack just over there, and if you look around me, you can see, there's trees on the ground over there. That's blow down. We got some breakage over here. There's a tree that's snapped right there, and that's a fresh break. And the crown is kind of broken apart over there. Lots of scars on that one, so you can see why. It's, lots of decomposition in it. And you probably can't even see this because of the rain. But, so, I think when you kind of find yourself in a situation where this is happening around you, sometimes you only need to sit and wait for maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Just to kind of just wait and see if it just slows down. And then you egress the area, which is especially important if you live in areas that are like for example, in BC's interior forest, where there's so much beetle kill. It's essentially a dead pine forest, and they're so rotten that really it's unsafe to be out in them in any kind of a breeze, because the trees just fall apart. They just break this. Most of these pine forests now it's a sea of broken tops because they're so decomposed on the stump because of beetle kill. But out here, it doesn't matter. No matter where you are, there's always hazards in the forest. If I was in an industrial setting right now, if I was working on a job site or in forestry, it's the weekend, okay, I'm not out working, I'm out just taking the dog for a walk. But I could be fired for doing, being out here without a hard hat on my head. That's it's funny, when we're at work, we'll wear a hard hat, but when we're out doing our own thing, we don't wear hard hats because we don't want to look like an idiot. But you know what? I'm kind of an idiot for being out here right now. The weather is awful. But if I was to wait for... it's damn wind. This. It's windy down here on the ground, but up there it's probably 3 times windier. When you get down into a depression, kind of like what we have here, the wind kind of rolls over you. The real wind storm is happening up there, and it can be 1.5 to 2 tree lengths before that wind actually can come down and start hitting with full force on the ground. So it's kind of interesting if you're in areas with trees that have a poorly developed root system. You can't really thin them because that forest is it's not used to having wind penetration into the stand, and so you'll have a higher ratio of wind throw because it's an unmanaged forest. If they had been thinned in space when they're young trees, the roots develop and they get much more of a foundation. to have like a strong rooting system, but these trees don't. These trees don't, and so they are prone to wind thrown. So you can make your opening. You can patch cut them, but make your openings less than 2 tree lengths if you can, so that the wind, you don't get full frontage on the opposing side of the patch. Okay, it's kind of a wind firmness harvesting system, silviculture harvesting system. Anyway, you can see me. I'm not wearing a hard hat. I'm not working. I'm just taking Dogness for a walk. But you'll also see that I actually took the time to, this time at least, put on some high vis. So I am kind of safety conscious. Now this actually is military issue, this one. It was issued to me when I was a Canadian Ranger. I'm retired now. It's funny, when I retired from the Canadian Armed Forces as a Canadian Ranger after 18 years, they gave me a list of the items that they wanted to be returned. And so it didn't include absolutely everything that I had ever been issued. And this is one of them. It's this high-vis vest, which I loved. I've always loved it. And I'm kind of, grateful that they didn't ask for it back, because it's safety equipment. High vis is safety. The Canadian Rangers are more often than not an extremely overt kind of aspect of the Canadian Armed Forces, wherein they don't wear clothing or uniforms that are covert. They want to be seen. They have the red hoodies and these wonderful vests. It's just fantastic safety equipment, and it's just field effective. The hoodies are really terrible in winter like this because they're made of cotton and they soak up water like a sponge. But these vests were just fantastic. I mean, just the pockets. By the way, you can fit a C7 magazine in one of these pockets right here. The military figured that out. Figured, hey, let's make it capable of stowing a C7 mag. But I mean, good cargo space, high visibility, reflective stripes. Now, as I understand it, you can actually acquire these through your surplus store. If you're a retired ranger like me, I guess it was considered, it's just one of those expendables. Rain on this thing. This is one of those expendable items, so they didn't ask for it back. And I have to admit, it's totally soiled. I mean, I've been crawling on the ground in this thing, doing different things on different training exercises. And it's got years and years and years of use with me, actually. I ripped off the gun tape here, but I had my surname and my last 3 digits of my service number, so I could tell which one was mine. Allez! Oh, there she is. She's walking right behind me. Anyhow, having something like this, you don't care if it gets wet. It's durable, it's robust, I've been wearing it for years. And I've debadged it. I've taken the Canadian Ranger logo off because I don't want anybody to confuse me as being on active service. I don't want people to confuse me as an actual Canadian Ranger on deployment or in training. So I debadge it. And you don't want those kinds of things getting confused. Here's this is where the moose likes to hang out. Right in there. Highly active area in the springtime. Bears are in here, skunk cabbage. And what they're doing is they're in here in the early spring because this comes up with lush green vegetation first. There's a skunk cabbage farm back there. I think the fragrance in the air in the springtime around here is wonderful. Excuse me. But they're in there because they're eating the skunk cabbage. Because, man, I wish I was wearing my hard hat right now. You got breakage like this big hemlock down here. Hard hat's not going to help you. But if you get hit in the head with a stick or a chunk of ice, it will save you. And I know that from personal experience, having been struck by snow and ice coming out of trees before. Thank God I was wearing a hard hat, because if I wasn't, I don't think they would have had to get a helicopter in to pull me out. Nobody wants to be a casualty, and sometimes a hard hat is just the right thing. I wasn't expecting the wind to come up like this. Anyhow, so wearing safety equipment in the bush is actually kind of a smart thing to do. What if I did actually? I'm out here trying to work my knees. I need to get my knee. I had a knee injury, and I'm trying to get back in action. You know, I'm trying to get back to work in the field so that I have confidence in my own abilities, training that knee, building the strength in that knee after a knee injury. And so I'm trying to do that. I'm trying to get active again. I'm ready for a new field season, because the snow is melting and the field season is going to be upon us before you know it. So I'm trying to get back in action. But I probably should have been wearing a hard hat out here today. It's coming down on me. There it goes. Anyhow, if you have the opportunity to acquire one of these vests, if you do, for whatever reason, don't quite make it home at night, you're going to be way easier to find. If you're incapacitated, you're going to be way easier to find. You're going to stand out. If I was just out in this green rain jacket, I'm wearing the pants too, right? Then I fall over anywhere in here, I'm camouflaged. They can't see me. I want them to find me. Being overt can be a very good thing. Anyway, that's just a lesson from the Canadian Rangers. I'm retired now. I don't do that anymore. And I don't want anybody to confuse me to think that I'm actually on any kind of active duty or anything like that, because I'm wearing this. I've debadged it. I've kind of removed the identifying marks, and I'm hoping that's okay. Because I've seen them selling them in surplus stores, so, you know, whatever. At least I recall. I've seen the uniforms out there. Anyhow, Rob Turner signing off. Hope you're all doing well. Maple Leaf out.